I've said a total of 3 things about Ned Fulmer being fired from the Try Guys. Ned Fulmer sucks. He absolutely deserved to be fired for cheating on his wife with a subordinate after making his entire brand about how good of a husband he is. And the other 3 guys responded to the situation perfectly and were unfairly mischaracterized by the media. Now, what I'm about to say is not me taking back any of those 3 statements, but rather adding a 4th. After the situation went down, the Try Guys received a lot of criticism from people mischaracterizing them, saying they were milking the situation for personal gain. Now, at the time, that was an absurd criticism as they really just did their corporate statements and a couple of tongue-in-cheek jokes about how they were feeling. And they even expressed a level of outrage at this criticism.
There have been articles and headlines taking what we're saying, making it seem like we're on this grand media tour. So, we decided that we just have to shut up. We just can't talk about stuff anymore.
So what am I getting at? I think the way that Second Try has handled this situation following the infamous SNL sketch has been in really poor taste, especially to the women that they themselves identified as victims, to the point that I would call what they're engaging in clear hypocrisy. And I really think they need to take a step back and reevaluate how they're choosing to handle this. Now, one big thing to stress before I get into this, I do not think Ned is a victim. However, even if you make the assumption that him not being a victim opened Ned's up to anything that might come his way, this situation was never just about Ned. And I don't think the people behind Second Try are being respectful to the other people that are victims in this situation, despite stressing how important it is that the public does. And this isn't me criticizing anyone as a person, but rather commenting on them forgetting the importance of using your platform responsibly, even when that's not the satisfying, fun, or easy thing to do. Now, when the guys released their video announcing Ned's departure from the company, they received a lot of praise for being a prime example of men breaking the cycle of men who work in media escaping accountability. And one moment that stood out to a lot of people was this.
We also want to remind you that the internet has a tendency to be a lot harsher towards women than men. So please, we ask that you exercise kindness.
Which can easily come off as virtue signaling, but in this case, they seem to live the example, so okay, it wasn't. Which is especially important since in this situation, the victims are primarily women who worked with their company. So with that in mind, the Try Guys came to the logical conclusion that the best thing to do for those victimized by the situation is to make sure the public continues talking about them as much as humanly possible for over a month now. And this has mainly been in the form of constant jokes or passive-aggressive digs about the situation that I think are increasingly in poor taste. And the company goes out of its way to make sure these comments pretty much always go viral as recently as November 9th. And when you juxtapose what I'm talking about to the original video, which the media responded to by accusing the guys of just saying what was needed in order to save face, it doesn't sit well with me, to say the least. But let me just show you what I mean.
People were watching us. And so I go, oh, that's why people make this their career. That's why they lean hard into drama. And what I've also learned is I want no fucking part in it. Trey as a character is so obsessed with going to Yale, and like, trust me, people who go there, they're not so great.
No, they suck.
You just said that right after Miles said we gotta take out that.
That's hilarious.
I just like don't get what the big deal is.
Like, we didn't want it to blow up this big because of how traumatic it blowing up is to the people involved. And like, just imagine it was you. and your mistake was on that big of a blast, but that many people making TikToks about it, that many people making funny meme tweets about it, like really hard, really hard. So very simply, he would have been removed. He would not have been this public spectacle. We probably would have tried to avoid that for the sake of the other people involved.
There's also our staff of 20 strong who they just don't deserve the negative attention our brand is now getting because they didn't do anything. There are real people who have been affected. And while we consider this a company matter, there's just also a family at the center of this.
This whole fucking circus is not interesting to me, and is not what I ever want to be defined as a creative person.
It only took the 3 original Try Guys not being here for me to win it.
The internet has a tendency to be a lot harsher towards women.
So we are very sympathetic to those individuals because it's a strong reaction to have to handle.
Warm up your buddy, okay.
Hey, all right.
Warm up your buddy. Your consent.
Yes, you have my consent.
Keith, can I borrow some butter?
What are you gonna give me?
A kiss on the cheek?
Not in this climate.
So please, we ask that you exercise kindness.
Now, I'm not saying that joking or venting about the situation in any capacity is inappropriate. This is a huge deal in the lives of everyone involved in the situation, right? In fact, I have found some of the jokes made by the guys really funny, especially the jokes that came out during the week or so when, yeah, there really wasn't much they could do to get the public to stop talking about it, so what's the harm in a little catharsis, right? It wasn't until it became a constant, ongoing pattern of the Try Guys reigniting public discussion of the situation that it started to seriously rub me the wrong way. The best example of this is the Try Guys' Twitter. You see, after Ned's firing, their Twitter started to come out with these savage jokes about the situation. Now, were some funny? Yeah, fucking hilarious. Is it kind of screwed up that they are calling attention to the situation over a month later and are still getting tens, if not hundreds of thousands of likes, especially when they've criticized the media for not letting them move on from this? You know my answer. Do we really think that that doesn't result in Ariel and Alex experiencing more negative attention, especially after the guys put on a show about how desperately they want to prevent that? And a lot of these jokes on Twitter are in reference to quick comments made in videos that they not only choose to not edit out, but instead double down on for some likes and follows. This is the most recent example. The Try Guys released a video about meditating for a month, which happened to fall during the month of the situation being made public. So references to their emotional state in this kind of video are natural, and I didn't have a problem with those for the most part. But there was this one moment where Keith references the book they wrote together, and, well, now here's the thing. I think off the bat, it's really weird to be trying to distance yourself from Ned, but still promote a book that he helped write and would probably still profit from. That already seems morally questionable to me, much like how this video about them trying meditation for their mental health was sponsored by a meditation app, and they never indicated that they would be allowed to share if they had a negative or unproductive experience with meditation. That's its own thing, but that also bothered me about this particular video. But also, what is showing this book but going out of your way to edit Ned out as a joke supposed to do if not try to get people talking about Ned and those around him? And if I seem overly sensitive, you should probably know that their subreddit had at least half a dozen posts about this joke where people were discussing the situation again. And the Try Guys themselves tweeted the joke out to tens of thousands of likes, when it would have been easier and better for everyone in the situation but the guys to just not show a graphic of the book or just crop the book to the title so Ned isn't in it without calling any attention to it. But that's the thing. Notice that only the three Try Guys are benefiting from this kind of humor. And in response to the controversy, Becky Happersberger, Keith's wife and one of the most front-facing people associated with the company, even said this.
The things you put on the internet are there. They are there forever. And people see them. Real people see them.
And Zach himself has expressed a similar sentiment, saying,
namely, there are real people who have been affected. And while we consider this a company matter, there's just also a family at the center of this.
You guys maybe want to apply that to the other people struggling as a result of the situation, probably much more than you currently are. Just an idea. And the jokes that I showed during that little compilation, they almost all have viral tweets that repeat the jokes in order to take digs at Ned. And even if you say that this doesn't result in prolonging the hostility of the internet towards the many other victims of the situation, is it not in really poor taste to be profiting off of probably the worst thing that has happened to your friend? And I don't mean Ned, by the way. I'm actually talking about Ariel. You know, the mother of Ned's two children that he cheated on. The same Ariel that worked for the Try Guys and we were told to be really sensitive towards. So why do we have to use our platforms responsibly, but the ones with millions of fans are going out of their way to keep her emotionally devastating experiences in the public discourse? And before you say it doesn't affect Ariel somehow, she's also still with Ned according to the most recent updates. So now she has to see these jokes not just about her experience, but at her husband's expense from the people who put on a whole show about doing right by her.
So You Can Sit With Us features our partners. Ariel is one of the cast members in that show. But at this time, we're going to give her some time to focus on herself, and we'll let you know if that changes.
Like, do you think it's good for her to see her husband put down to millions? Do you think it's good for her to see them make light of the situation at her expense? Do you think it's not a slap to the face coming from the people that originally promised to stand by her, at least when that made for better PR? And it even rubs me the wrong way for Ned, someone that I should be feeling no sympathy for in this situation. Let me explain. When two sides are slinging insults and digs at each other, like, fine, you're petty, but go off. But when these digs are all coming from one side, the side that millions of people have aligned themselves with, and the side that has every advantage going for them here, it starts to feel like punching down to me. There's an old saying about how one's character can be observed not only by how they treat their equals, but how they treat their inferiors. Is Ned a victim of the situation? No. But is he someone with less of a platform than you guys? Is he someone who millions of people, including myself, have already gone after and criticized? Is he someone that can never respond to each and every time you guys do this, or else thousands will go after him? Yes? So why can't you guys just leave it alone? Like, they held him accountable. They did the thing. Especially when you guys put out what now looks like a facade of being concerned about his family. Like, do you want that family to be missing Ned because he completely falls off the deep end or chooses to stop being alive? I'm all for accountability, and that's why I gained so much respect for them in the first place, but I'm also a firm believer that enough is enough. Like, seriously, what is the end goal supposed to be here? Especially when the guys are still profiting off of him, profiting off of his initial investment in the company, and were apparently best friends with him for almost a decade. They started handling this with such class, and to me, that's all starting to look like an act now. Now that the guys won the public support, and it's mostly just the fans watching again, it feels like they're no longer worried about being decent people here. Yeah, guys, we got it. Ned screwed you over. Now, why don't you be the bigger people the way that you went out of your way to say that you were to millions?
We were acutely aware of just how contrary this was to the values of the company we've built and those of everyone who works here. We refused to sweep things under the rug. That is not who we are, and it's not what we stand for.
And that's a decision that has cost us lots of money. We will not be able to recoup that money, but it's a decision we stand by proudly.
Is it only me that loses a lot of respect for them for going from that to, like, relishing in the situation? Is it not weird? Another weird thing that I noticed is that the guys say that messing up shouldn't open you up to the public humiliation that the situation presented, yet go out of their way to keep saying that that sentiment doesn't apply to Ned. And I kind of wish I knew why they were adding that qualifier. Is it them not having the energy or desire to defend him, or a double standard because of the personal feelings involved? Or did Ned in fact do something so heinous that, from the guys' perspective, this still doesn't serve as adequate punishment? And now you might say that humor is a healthy coping mechanism. And yeah, to their support systems, this kind of humor is completely understandable and appropriate, but it's not healthy or right to turn your fans into your support system, especially when the guys have gone out of their way to validate the parasocial relationships that they have with these fans.
I know that the word parasocial has been thrown around a lot, and then some people have tried to make you feel bad for having that parasocial attachment to begin with. You're allowed to care about the content you watch, and you're allowed to care about us.
It is like a relationship breakup. At first, it's really hard, and everything you look at is really hard. But as time passes, you'll be able to, have some sort of resolution, and you can go back and watch stuff that maybe right now is uncomfortable to watch.
And really quickly, I want to address a couple of counter arguments that I expect to see in the comments so that hopefully, I don't see them without some added perspective. One, maybe something major happened behind the scenes between Ned and the guys that we don't know about. And I mean, yeah, that couldn't be more obvious. And I've seen people say that that has to explain the guys' behavior and basically justifies it. But I'm not going to be a part of normalizing justifying behavior that I think is inappropriate by creating a tragic backstory that validates said behavior, especially when the guilty party is the one with significantly more power, even if they're the ones I like way more. If they don't want to or are unable to speak about this publicly, then I feel it's totally fine to judge their actions based on what has been made public. Well, the Try Guys can do whatever they want since Ned's friend wrote the SNL sketch about them. We have no clue if Ned had anything to do with that, and the behavior I'm talking about started before then. Also, it's been a month, during which the guys have complained about the media claiming they won't stop talking about it. And yet, they won't stop talking about it. Just a thought. And another thought. Fun fact, YouTube thinks that across my entire channel, there is one video that you're going to get the most out of, and it's going to appear right here. So maybe check it out for leaving a like, because what have you guys to lose, right? Also, you might be thinking it's a bad idea for me to criticize the Try Guys after obtaining a significant portion of my audience from videos that praise them. And you'd be right, but when has a white guy ever let something being a bad idea that could harm their career stop them from fulfilling their impulsive desires, right?